COVID-19 sucks. Hi everyone, I'm Jackie. Welcome to my channel. I want to first say thank you to my subscribers who have been checking in on me to see how we are doing and the fact that I haven't posted in a while. If you are new and you're kind of just here to see what's going on, or you saw that I was talking about how I lost a friend to COVID, then feel free to check out my channel, and if there's any topics on my channel that interest you, then please consider subscribing. So today's video is going to be basically an update. I'm going to be talking about a few different things, all related to how the pandemic and how COVID-19 directly is affecting our household, our family, and our friends. I'm going to be talking about a few different topics, so I'm going to put a link in the description below with kind of like timestamps. So if you want to skip ahead to a certain topic, feel free. If you just want to see how I'm doing in general, then please watch the whole video. So to start off, we are going to be talking about COVID-19, the actual virus, the disease, and how it's affected. I have several friends and family members now who have contracted it. We live in Arizona in the United States of America. If you guys have been following the news, you know that we are one of the top states currently for having the rise in cases. So I'm going to talk about kind of what their symptoms were. These are all different age people, all different health things, from one person who had no symptoms to, like I mentioned, I lost a friend. I'm going to try to keep it together. All right, I'm just going to talk about their experience from what they've shared with me. I'm going to share my experience. I was tested for COVID. Fortunately, it was negative. So I'm going to talk about that. So if you want to know what to expect or how the testing is, then feel free to watch that section. The other section I'm going to talk about is how it's still affecting us as far as work goes and our finances. We're also going to talk about what's changing for our children's education moving forward and how it's affecting our travel. So if you're interested in just, like I mentioned, any of those, feel free to click the timestamp down in the description below. So to start off with, we're going to talk about the effects of COVID from my friends and family's experience. And I'm just going to tell you, I guess, in chronological order, kind of like a timeline, because that's the way my brain processes it. So starting basically, one of my best friends and I, we went out on June 13th to celebrate her birthday. Here in Arizona, they had opened everything up. A lot of places were pretty good about implementing all of the CDC guidelines, and some of them not so much. So basically we went to the casino to play bingo. The casino was on point. You had to wear a mask to come in. They had the full body technology for the temperature checks, which is really cool. They had hand sanitizing everywhere. I had my own mask, I had my own hand sanitizer. I even brought my own bingo dabber from Carnival cruise that we went on. And they had, you know, the social distancing markers on the floor. They had, we didn't do any of the machines or games, we just did the bingo, but they did have, like, they had the space between, so every other machine was closed. They were limiting how many people could come in, so they did a pretty good job. I didn't like eat or drink anything there. We felt fine, we played, and then we went to a restaurant. At the restaurant, they were good at keeping people separated, and then the people working at the restaurant did have their masks on. We were not required to wear a mask because we were eating. We hung out there for quite a while, and then we ended up finishing out the night, and we went to just another like bar restaurant that was close, like in the same shopping center, that had like line dancing and stuff like that. This is where all of the CDC guidelines went out the window. No one that worked there was wearing masks. No one was practicing social distancing. So we probably made a stupid decision to even go there. We didn't stay long, and we tried our best. You know, I had my mask. It's just kind of like you have to pick and choose what you're gonna do. So anyway, so we left. It was a fun night. We had a good time. Then the next week, my friend had COVID. And so she called me up and said she wasn't sure where or when she contracted it. And you can basically start showing symptoms as early as 2 days from getting it to 14 days to no symptoms at all. At the time when she contacted me, I didn't really have any symptoms. I was feeling tension in the back of my head, kind of like I was getting sick, but nothing that was like a COVID type symptom. But I had, asked her, she's a nurse, so she could have got it at work. She also mentioned that her daughter was exposed at daycare. So her whole family had to quarantine. She did go to the ER because she said her symptoms were pretty bad. So she's a year younger than me. She was just turning 37, pretty healthy. She, like I mentioned, she contracted it. She had pretty much every symptom that would be listed if you were to Google the symptoms. She had a loss of smell, a loss of taste, the fever, the chills, the body aches, the trouble breathing, the cough, the headache, like everything, you name it. So she went to the ER. They did send her home to quarantine and it was positive, but she was able to quarantine at home. Her husband and daughter quarantined with her. They never developed symptoms, but they were never tested either, so we're not really quite sure. She finally was released to go back to work, and now this is, you know, I'm filming this July 27th. She's just starting to have, like, she still doesn't have a sense of smell, and she still gets winded. She gets out of breath very easily. Then that same weekend, or that weekend after she told me she had it, I started developing symptoms. I had a fever, my throat was hurting, my ear was starting to hurt, I was starting to develop kind of a small dry cough. So I ended up just going to the ER. I was originally going to go to urgent care, but they said that it would take almost 2 weeks before I got my results back. And because I have 2 young children and my husband who works outside of the house, I wanted to know, like, okay, well, am I infecting them right now? So I went to the ER, and some of you saw my post, and they did an x-ray to make sure I didn't have pneumonia, a chest x-ray, that was clear, and then they did the swab, and the swab goes just like all the way up your nose. So they do one side, and then they do the other side. They send that in, and then they monitored me for about 2 hours, and then they sent me home to do the quarantine. And I got my results the next day, like not even a full 24 hours. I got my results and it was negative. So that was good news, because then I didn't have to, you know, Ricky didn't have to worry about trying to do a quarantine, and I didn't have to worry about the kids and all of that. That same day, this was basically Father's Day weekend, I called my dad for Father's Day, and he had just gotten out of the hospital. And he went into the hospital. He knew he had infection. Now, he was in a motorcycle accident in January. It's been a very long road to recovery. He's still in a wheelchair. He basically broke his hip, ruptured his bladder, broke his ribs, pierced the lung, broke his ankle, and lost a lot of skin on one leg. So he's had surgeries after surgeries, skin grafts, all kinds of stuff. So he's been kind of in and out of the hospital, but he's been getting bladder infections because he still has to wear a catheter. So he went to the ER knowing he had this bladder infection, but he mentioned he had the fever and the cough. And so they went ahead and tested him for COVID. The doctors at the hospital didn't think he had it, but he said test me anyways, and it turned out he did have COVID. Now, my dad is 67. He doesn't really have any of the health conditions that they're talking about that are at higher risk, but he is the age group that is higher risk. But that was basically the only symptoms he had, a fever and a cough. He was able to go home and quarantine. His wife got tested, and she tested positive with no symptoms. Same age as my dad. So that just kind of tells you right there, a 37-year-old and a 67-year-old, completely different symptoms. Both, however, were able or all 3 of them were able to recover at home and do their quarantine. So now my dad is off of the quarantine. However, they have, since everything started, they still have not had anyone come over to their house other than his physical therapist and his doctor or his nurse or whoever. So where they contracted it, we don't know. That's the problem, is like you really just can't trace it. Like, there's no way to trace it. 4th person that I know that got it was a friend, and he's also in a wheelchair, but he's been paralyzed for a good, like, pretty much his whole adult life, and that was from a motocross accident. But anyway, so he doesn't have any health issues other than mobility issues. He mentioned the same thing. He basically just said he had a fever, a cough, and kind of that was it. Very mild symptoms as well. Whereas my friend, who happens to be the youngest out of the people we're talking about, she had the worst symptoms out of it, and she's still trying to recover a little bit from it. But he, same thing, was able to recover at home. So by this point, I'm feeling like, okay, yeah, people are gonna get it. It's spreading like wildfire, but maybe it's not too bad. Maybe if we do get it, we'll be able to fight it. But then, oh, here we go again. Think you're okay. Then my friend, and I'm not mentioning names just because I don't want to like point things out, but anyways, then one of my other friends, he's early 40s, and he doesn't have any of the health conditions that they're saying are a high risk, but his lifestyle is maybe not ideal. He works at night, he's a DJ, or was, and you know, maybe not take care of himself that much, but again, everything was opened back up, so he was back to work. So again, there's no way to trace where it went, but basically June 23rd or so, he went to the hospital because he was having trouble breathing, and he ended up going into ICU. They ended up putting him on a ventilator. His wife was not allowed to go in there with him. That was the same thing too. When I went to the hospital, no one, Ricky and the girls could not come in there with me. I was basically hanging out by myself. They had to go home and then come back and get me later. So he was in there by himself, and she had to go home and do the quarantine. Well, while she was in quarantine, he lost his battle of doing it. So I don't know exact details if his sister or family members had decided to take him off of the ventilators. All I know is that he basically, he died on July 12th. Him and I were friends. We met when I was like 21. And I was friends with him for, 5 years before my husband even came around. And then he actually met my husband before I met my husband. So last time we actually got to see him was November, when my friend came to stay with us for Thanksgiving. We finally had a babysitter since forever, so we went out and we saw him and we got to hang out with him. And it just kind of like, it sucks because you can't have, you don't get the closure because we can't have a service. Can't go see. Basically, his wife said that we are going to try to honor him. We're going to be filming videos and releasing orange balloons up into the air, and then they're going to compile it into a video. So it just sucks. Like, there's no proper way to do any of this. It makes me mad because he was like one of the few that you would think would die from it. So it just, I don't know. I have another friend who's a nurse. He works in ICU, and he had mentioned that 3 out of 5 people are currently dying from it, and that it's all like, it's healthy people, you know what I mean? There's no rhyme or reason. It's all ages. It's not really picking and choosing anymore. So it's not really anything. And he said that every night he goes to work, there like 2 people are dying, and that's just at his one shift, his one day. It's a serious deal, you guys. So just stay home and wear a mask and do your best to do what you can do to protect yourself and your family and other people, because you could have it and not have any symptoms and then just be passing along to other people. I think at one point, honestly, I think at some point everybody is going to get it, and it's kind of like survival of the fittest, or it's just the fact that the hospitals aren't treating it properly. Who knows? You could have so many conspiracy theories and all of this stuff. So everyone is entitled to their own opinion. We are doing our part to do what we can. Now, since the girls have been out of school, they have not gotten sick at all. When they were going to school, my youngest was getting sick all the time because you're in there all the time. So it's just better being home right now anyway. So that's that, right? That's like how it's affecting us. If you guys have personally got it, or you know people who have gotten it, I would love to hear your experience down in the comments below. Please share them just so people can hear, if there's any symptoms or things that maybe someone else experienced that my friends and family did not experience. If their testing experience was different than mine, then go ahead and leave that down below so other people can learn from it. So now we're going to be going into just how the pandemic itself is affecting our work. So if you follow the channel, before this all was happening, my girls were still at school, and I was teaching Zumba at the local YMCA. I taught at 2 locations, and I worked the after-school program at the YMCA. I was laid off basically the same week that the schools closed down. So at that time, because I was only part-time and I had only been with my employer for a few months, and I did not have no income to report the year before because I'm self-employed on that end, I did not qualify for the regular state unemployment. Then in April, Ricky was put on unpaid furlough. He did qualify for the unemployment, and we were put on food stamps at that time. In May, Arizona finally released the pandemic unemployment, so I did start receiving the minimum of the Arizona state unemployment, which was $117 a week, and then the government, from the CARES Act, they had an extra $600 a week for the pandemic unemployment. So for that application, I had to submit all of my income and tax returns from 2019 to show what I had lost from self-employment and with my job and all of that. So that extra $600 a week it's basically ending this week. And I only get 3 out of the 4 weeks every month of the unemployment anyways, because I still get some income from YouTube, and so I have to claim that as income for that week. And then because I basically get paid on the 22nd, so that week any week on the 22nd, I don't get paid unemployment because I made, maybe $200 from YouTube or something like that. My YouTube income has dropped significantly since everything happened. I'm making like $200 a month, and obviously I'm not posting as much and people aren't advertising as much, so I'm sure a lot of people's channels are seeing that. And then in the end of May, Ricky was able to go back to work. Now, he was put at a different job site, so that the new job site does not have overtime. Before the pandemic was happening, Ricky was working 50 hours a week, sometimes 60 hours a week. So now, if he's lucky, he will work maybe 48 hours because the old job site, they do like his work ethic a lot, so they will say, okay, you can come on Saturday, or something like that. So he has, like, every couple weeks have been trying to get overtime there. So as of right now, as of July 27th, I still am unemployed. The gyms did open up, like I mentioned, everything opened up at the end of May, and then I was not offered a job back at that time. Out of, I think we had like 6 Zumba instructors, only 2 of them were brought back, and those were the people that had been there for 5 years. Of course, they're going to go back. I was only there for like 4 months before everything happened. But now everything closed back down again at the end of June, and now they're extending the closure. So I still don't have a job. Government obviously is currently in the process of releasing what they're going to do because everything's running out. The Republicans, I believe later today or tomorrow, are going to be releasing, okay, this is what we plan for the next bill, the next stimulus package. And then the Democrats will have to come back and counter, and they negotiate. They're supposed to have a final answer in by August 7th. So there is possibility we're still getting a stimulus check. The amount should be about the same, the $1,200. That seems like that's pretty consistent. So some things might change on who will get it and all of that. So that's still up in the air. Now, as far as the unemployment, the pandemic unemployment, so for people who are self-employed or who are part-time, they're still going to get their state unemployment. So I will still get the $117 a week minus the week that I get paid from Google. And then the extra $600 a week, they are negotiating that. And as of right now, it's looking like they're going to cut it all the way down to about $200 a week. And the reality of it is they just want to get people to go back to work. But the problem is that they just don't, well, they had to close a lot of things down. So now there's more people unemployed. So it's like, it's all this back and forth. So we don't know. I've thought about maybe trying to get other jobs, but honestly, my girls are home from school. So I have to be home with them all day. And if I try to get a job, it would be at night. And this kind of transitions me into my child's education and what are we going to do moving forward. So I am going to be basically homeschooling again, but I'm going to be doing it through an online public charter school. So it's k12.com. You can go to k12.com and look up your zip code and your child's grade level, and they'll let you know if they have some type of virtual academy in your state. So for here in Arizona, it's Arizona Virtual Academy. It's considered a public charter school. So they supply all of the curriculum, the lesson plans, the workbooks, the literature books, the laptops, the printer. They provide that to us for free because it's paid for through public school funding. And then you do have to return. Pretty much you keep the workbooks because your child's writing in those, but everything else you're pretty much returning at the end of the year or whenever you decide to withdraw them. Now, the reason we decided to do this is because the governor can't decide what to do with school. We were supposed to open schools August 3rd, and when he closed everything down at the end of June, he pushed the start back to August 17th, and then they said, well, we might push it back again, or we might just start with remote learning. We tried the remote learning with my daughters. I have a kindergarten going into first grade, third grade going into fourth grade. So from their public school, their elementary school, we tried the remote learning, and it was a disaster. It was just a total disaster, very unorganized. So we just decided, I was debating whether to just homeschool and pick my own curriculum and be able to pick my own schedule and not really have to be accountable to anybody, or to do an online school. I went with an online school kind of because of that reason. I feel that they're going to keep me accountable, and I'm also going to have the help from the teacher. Now, online school, it's not going to be for every family, because obviously if you have to go to work, then it's not going to, that's not going to work for you. So for me, being home, I'm just taking this as a sign like, hey, let's keep everybody home. We'll do the online school, and we will kind of just do what we can. So we're committing to doing the online school with the Arizona Virtual Academy, K-12, through the end of 2020, through December. And then after winter break, we will assess and see how it's going, and we'll go from there. I'm going to be sharing a few more videos about that on this channel. I'm going to show you the unboxing, show you the different curriculum, and kind of how it's going. So if you're interested in that, then please consider subscribing to follow up on those. Now, leading into vacation. So we had a cruise. We had a cruise scheduled and booked for December of 2020. It currently has still not been canceled. However, we were sailing with Royal Caribbean. They implemented a program called Lift and Shift, so you can basically just take your current booking, move it to the next year within like a 4-week period. Basically the same ship or same itinerary, same idea, and you kind of lock in your price, or you lock in the promotion that we had. So we had the kids sail free promotion. So we were able to kind of just move everything. That was a group cruise that we were trying to put together. I did have 2 of the rooms just cancel altogether, and then one of the other ones did the lift and shift with us. So we are moving, basically that's a Caribbean cruise, so now we've moved it to December of 21. The money we had for the cruise, it's still just in the savings account for that cruise. What we've kind of started doing a couple years ago is going on 1 cruise a year, and for us it's the best budget-friendly vacation for our family. We're a family of 4, and it just comes out really good. We always sail during like non-peak times. We also try to pick ships that are, maybe they're in a certain category, but they're like the older ship of the category and they've just been renovated, and then we find the kids sail free promotion, so we get pretty good deals. So originally we were not going to do a cruise for 21 because we wanted to save up for an Alaska cruise, and we knew Alaska cruise was going to be probably twice as much as our regular Caribbean cruise. However, we actually did book a Alaska cruise for May of 21, and the reason we were able to do that, and it's actually pretty much the same price as our Caribbean cruise, actually maybe a little bit cheaper than our Caribbean cruise, and the reason that is because Royal Caribbean moved Quantum of the Seas over to sail Alaska. We originally were going to go on Ovation of the Seas, and Quantum of the Seas is the same ship family, so the same layout, but it's the older ship, so it's cheaper to go on that ship. And they had a kids sail free promotion, which They usually don't have very many of those for Alaska, so we're able to get that. And we're going at the very beginning. So basically if you go in May or September of Alaska, then you're getting a better deal. So we're actually going to do 2 cruises next year, again, just kind of depending on what's going on. So we have our deposits down on both of those cruises, and one cruise we have all of the money put aside, pretty much everything else that we need. This one we will be basically putting money aside starting next year. We will put money aside to build up that vacation fund, because we were going to put that money aside for the future vacation anyway. So it's money that was already in our budget for next year. So I have a few years budgeted out. So that was already planned for. We just get to take it sooner than later if things are running and we feel it's safe at that time. Sharon, if you're watching, if you want, we've booked both of those on group space. So if you want to sail with us in May or December, let me know. Maybe you guys can sail with us. So that's kind of what we've done. I might make some other videos going into more detail about all of that. Now we did have, we had already purchased our airline tickets for December's cruise, so I did have to cancel that. So now I just have a credit. So that credit will pay for one flight and then part of another flight for next year. So I only have to come up with a little bit extra money for 2 flights next year. So that's the update of what's going on. So basically moving forward on this channel, I don't want to commit to you guys, and I'm sorry to say that, but I don't want to say, okay, I'm posting on this, this, and this. I do want to share the K-12 process and the curriculum, because hopefully that will help you guys decide, you know, if you're not going to put your kids back in school right now, it gives you an option of what to do. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit more moving forward. And then, I don't know, we'll kind of just check in every once in a while, because I've been having some real struggles with my mental health over the last 2 months. And so I'm just, I might actually go see a professional about it. I've had panic attacks, I've had anxiety that turns into depression, which kind of starts triggering some of my OCD. I have never been put on medication for it because I've always just tried my best to get through it on my own, but I'm struggling. I'm really struggling, so I am going to go see somebody about it. As you can see, I'm just losing it. Anyway, so thank you guys so much for joining me for this update. Thank you for my subscribers for checking in on me and our family. You know, we are doing the best that we can right now, and I hope you guys are doing good as well. And please share any of your experiences with any of the topics I mentioned in today's update. Share that down below, just so we know that we are all in this together and you're not alone. So as always, thanks for watching. I'll see you soon. Bye.